Hi, I'm Mikaela, and this is Love Mikaela, a podcast where I talk about literally anything and everything I want to. I know I look a little bit fancy today, and that is because today, you should be able to tell by the title, I wanted to talk about one of my favorite genres in anime right now. Of course, I watch a lot of K dramas, we all know that. But I also am really into anime as well. I watch stuff like JJK, Jujutsu Kaisen, but I'm not caught up yet, so don't spoil anything for me, please. I used to watch My Hero. I'm not caught up on that either. I just kind of fell off of it. But you know, it is what it is. It was a good show when I was watching it, and I even went to the theaters to go watch like the movies that were coming out with it, and I went to the theater to watch the JJK movie, of course. Again, still not caught up. Please don't spoil it for me. But I also love, of course, what else? The romantic comedy section of these animes, which a lot of animes are like, I can't remember the name. It's because there's different kinds, and I know there's specific genres, and I could say what they are, but if there's romance and there's comedy in it, I'm going to want to watch it. Like, that's just kind of how it is. So I watched Fruits Basket, of course, both the old one and the newer one. I've caught up on both. I went to the theater to watch the movie. I took my mom with me. I made my mom sit through the entire Fruits Basket story so that when we went to the theater to go and watch the movie together, she would know what was going on. And then I was really disappointed. The age gap, guys. Guys, the age gap is not it. I'm so sorry. I was just uncomfortable half the time there. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Anyway, whatever. Besides the point. Spy Family, duh. My mom likes that one too. My sister likes that one. We all love that one. So cute. There's action in it, but there's the romance, there's the comedy. Anya is adorable. What else do I have written here? Oh yes, one of my favorites is Kaguya-sama Love is War. So good. So happy that they included the little like I guess movie. You know the like it says like I think it says like season 24, 25, like something crazy like that, and it's like four parts, and it's like the little. I love that. Oh my gosh, because the way that they ended the whole show, it was like perfect. Can't get any better than this. They're adding some more, might ruin it. Didn't ruin it, made it better. It's just like and then I'm not gonna go into it because I don't want to spoil it, and maybe I'll talk about that series later. But yeah, Kaguya-sama Love is War is a very high on my list favorite of mine, and then I also loved Horimiya. That's what it's called, right? That one was just really cute. I love both the like fantasy side of things and the slice of life side of things. What's it called? Rascal Senpai Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl, or Does Dream of, whatever. That one, I love that series as well. Some of them have crazy long names. I love I'm trying to think of like other ones that I've watched that I like really really loved. Um I even like listen, I like cheesy things. I don't care if the writing is really, really bad. I like cheesy things. But I like things that have good writing too, okay? But anyway, like, I'm not saying that this has really bad writing. It's just very, I think, cheesy and predictable. Kami-sama Hajime Mashita. Also, ooh, the intro music. So good. And that is actually one of the few animes that I will watch the English dub. I've watched both the sub and the dub. I'm always a sub girly. One, because I just like it, and I like to support it. And two, it helps when I'm trying to pick up on more Japanese. So win-win for me. But that is one of the ones that I will watch the English dub of because I love the voice actor. Because who didn't want? Listen, I watched Oran High School Host Club too. Like, come on, come on. I think like my gateway ones were probably Oran High School Host Club. Did Fruits Basket come out after? I think I didn't watch Fruits Basket until later on. Even though it's like one of the early ones, but I watched that. I watched Holic, if you know that one. I love that one. The art style is whack. The art style is crazy. They all look like they're 7 feet tall, and their limbs are like the same size as their entire torsos. It's crazy. If you know, you know. Like, even just go look up the art for Holic. It's XXX Holic, but I think you just call it Holic. And it was about like old Japanese like superstitions and ghost stories and stuff. And so I really liked that one. Me and my sister would get up early. It was like on Saturday mornings. We'd get up and we'd watch it. We watched that. We watched Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles, if you know that one too. Yeah, I think those are probably my two gateway ones, along with Oran High School Host Club. But like if you know, you know. But it is needless to say, I love the romantic I love the romantic comedy genre, and one of my favorite genres within kind of everything, and it's kind of more of a niche genre, although it's kind of popping off right now, is the Villainess reincarnation stories. I love them so, so much. I think they're so fun. Like, there was one that I watched recently, and I was like, because I got my sister hooked on one of them, and then she was like, okay, actually, this is kind of good. And then I was just showing her like multiple, because there's so many of them out. I know that they have so many like mangas and like light novels out of these kinds of stories as well. I just haven't really looked into those. I'm not a big, like, I really have tried. I've tried the manga thing. I tried like Webtoons is a little bit more accessible for me, just because of like what I've been able to find. And even that, like, it takes me a long time to get through them. I don't know what it is. I like to either read the words and imagine it for myself, or just have it fully played out in front of me in a show. That like a manga, a comic, a webtoon, like any of those kinds of like that thing, that kind of art. It's like the in between. Like, you don't have to make up all the imagery in your head, because you're not just reading words, you're seeing pictures, but it's not being played out for you like it would be if you were watching a movie or a show, or an anime. And for whatever reason, that in between space is really hard for me to get into. I like to either be in control of it, like in my head, imagination, or I just want it to be put out in front of me and done for me. I don't know why. I think it probably says something about like me. Like, when I read books, I like to put myself in the spot, and like, and then when I watch shows, like, I connect with the characters, but it's still like someone else is doing it for me. But then when it's like a webtoon or an anime, a manga, whatever you want to call it, not whatever you want to call it, they're kind of different things, but not, you know what I mean. It's like the in between space, and I feel like I don't fully connect with it. And so unless it's like I have three different stories that I'm reading on the Webtoon app right now, and I'm caught up on one of them because I caught up on it recently. Then the other two, I just have like probably 10 different episodes that I can get through right now. And it's not because the stories aren't good. Like, the stories are really, really good. I don't know why. It's just like that medium is hard for me to like get locked into. I also don't like waiting for things. I'm really impatient, and like having to wait another week for the next episode to come out is so annoying for me. Even when it's a finished story and I have to wait for the next day, because I'm not going to pay for it. I'm so sorry. I'm not. Like, I'll like things, I comment on things all the time to give support that way, but it's not one of the things I'll pay for. So sorry. But having to wait even just another day. I mean, maybe if there was one that was like so good that I had to, then I would pay for it, but because support the artist. But I don't know. There's something about that I can't super get into. But from that has come, like, it's become more popular in anime now, because it's popular in that space, is the Villainess reincarnation story. So I'm just gonna read you this is the definition. Like, when I looked it up, like, these are the definitions that came up, and I just kind of put them all together. So it says, this genre is defined as a subgenre of works with a protagonist who inscrutably understands their fictional world's plot, mechanics, or setting. Usually, the protagonist takes the role of a villainess, a stock disposable fiance of one of the love interests, who terrorizes or harms the more innocent heroine for being a threat, and who, of course, is fated for a bad ending. This genre later added gameplay. Ooh, can I read? This genre later added gameplay mechanics from otome games, such as event flags, branching paths, and multiple love interests. So basically, I reworded it here. The genre follows a girl, usually just your average student or like an office worker, who is killed or they die. Sometimes it's an accident, like the car always hits them. You know how that happens. I think they're called isekais, where you're like transported to another world because you're reincarnated as something else. So I think it's the same. I don't know. I should have looked that up, but I didn't. But it's usually your average, and I specifically like the villainess ones. I know that there's tons where it's a main male protagonist. I don't like those as much. I like the villainess ones. But it's fun because it's your average person, like student or an office worker, and they're killed or they happen to die in an accident or they die suddenly. They're then reincarnated into this new world that they understand and recognize, because it is either like the world of a game that they were really obsessed with playing, or a book that they may have read and that they really loved. It's a world that they like imagined themselves, like they they played through or read through, and now they're in this world. But instead of being reincarnated as the main character heroine, which is normally who, like, when you're reading or playing the game, like, you'd either be playing as them, or when you're reading as if you're that character, they are actually reincarnated as one of the villains, the main villainess of that story. Because typically it's like a rom-com book, or I've only seen one that was a book so far. Mostly they're like based on games, or it's like a rom-com kind of like dating sim and otome game, where you're trying to win the guy that you like, and there's like multiple love interests, and then there's always like one girl who is like the fiance of someone or the girlfriend of someone, and they're like really really mean to you, and they bully you when you're playing the game or reading the book, because you're their fiance or boyfriend is going to then fall for you, or whatever the case may be. But instead of being reincarnated as the main person, you're reincarnated as that girl, the villainess. And it's really fun because they know that because they're the villainess, they know that when either they play the game or in the book, they're then fated for like this awful like ending, whether they die or they're exiled or they're eaten by crocodiles, or I don't know, something crazy, right? Like they're the bad guy, and so something bad is supposed to happen to them at the end of this. And so they come into it with that knowledge, and their whole shtick isn't even like the romance part of it, even though the romance is the main thing of the game, like that's the main aim of the game, like that's your goal. Or in the book, like they have the happy ending at the end, right? You're not playing as the main character now, you're living as the villain, and so that's not your goal anymore. Your goal is, I just died and I was reincarnated into a life that I know is destined for doom. Like, I don't want that, so let me do my best to avoid that. And so that's where, like they said, the game mechanics came in, where there's event flags, which is basically like something that happens or something a character says that kind of signals like, hey, you're on your way to this path, and like you're gonna die next, like it's coming up, you're about to die. Or branching paths, like, oh, like when you play, I don't know if you've ever played, I say that like I'm just talking to one person, but I kind of am when I make these. I don't know if you've ever played like a game, like an otome game, but you can pursue, and multiple love interests as well fold into this. You can pursue different people, and then depending on the choices that you make, it'll send you down a different path of that like story of the game. So there's like this one otome game I'm in the middle of playing, I guess, because I've done every single path for every love interest except for, I think I have 2 guys left to pursue. But even when you're pursuing only one person, there might be like 2 or 3 different endings you can get with that person, and so those are different paths. And so they've incorporated that into this genre of anime as well, and it's just really really fun. I've also seen variations of this where the character wasn't really the villain necessarily, but they had a bad fate, and then they wanted to change that after they were kind of reincarnated as their younger self. That's actually one of the most recent ones I've watched. They were just trying to change like the future of their life essentially. And it's just fun. It's just really fun. If you know writing, it's a typical fish out of water story, where you, like, fish out of water is basically like you're in one type of world and then you're transported to a new world, and then like the whole story is about you learning about this new world and either saving this new world or changing this new world in a different way. And then sometimes you take all of that knowledge back to your old world if that's where you go back, or you end up changing this new world enough for it to become your world now. There's different variations on that as well, but the variation of this, the twist of this fish out of water story, is that you're not completely clueless when you go into this new world. And it adds like a little bit of power, like the dynamic is different, and it makes things a little bit more interesting for like the whole story. I think also it kind of adds this false sense of security for the audience, because they know that the main character, the person that they're following, has an idea of what's going to happen, and so it's like, oh well, they know what's going to happen so they can change it, right? But then even though they know what will happen, they have no clue on how to change it to make it better or to make it the way that they need it to be. And so you have this false sense of security that's like, oh, they know how to figure it out and fix it, right? But then it's like, but how do I figure it out and fix it so that way I can change it for what I need and also not negatively affect things further down the line? Like the main character has knowledge of what is going to happen, but they don't have absolute knowledge of that. And so it adds this sense of insecurity, I guess, and it adds a little bit more tension to things. And then it's also fun to see when things branch out differently and now the main character doesn't know what's going on anymore, and that changes the way that they react in their world. And it adds a new dynamic to things again. And so I think it's an easy genre that to get hooked into because the premise is very interesting, and also it's just like there's so many different ways that it could twist and turn that you could guess, and then you could guess for like hours and try and figure out where the story's going to go, and then you might not ever touch even what is next to what's going to happen in the story because the main character has an idea of what can happen. Now you as the audience member have an idea, as the audience member, or as the viewer, you have an idea of what can happen, but they don't have absolute knowledge of things, so you don't have absolute knowledge of things either, and that makes it really fun and a little bit more suspenseful to watch. And I just think it's just a fun concept. It's so interesting to watch. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking. I think, I just wrote down like a lot of the reasons why I like this genre. One of the reasons is I love seeing how the tiniest of decisions can have the biggest impact on things. It's just the butterfly effect, right? It's cool to get to see it. I know it's fiction, but I feel like these things can happen in real life as well, where you make like that you decide to leave 5 minutes late one day, and because of that this happens and this happens and these things can kind of happen in real life. I don't think it's as dramatic as changing whether you die or not. I mean, I think it can, but typically that's probably not the case. But it is just cool to see in a fictional space this play out, that even the smallest of things can have like the biggest action. And one of the big things that a lot of these villainesses then do once they're reincarnated into this new world is, right, their goal is to not die. That's their goal. And so because of that, it tends to cause a lot of them to just be like really nice to everyone around them. And it's not in a way that feels disingenuous. It's done in a way that's like, oh, because when it's a villainess, like when you think back, when the character thinks back to how the villainess originally acted in these situations, they were seeing it as the main character because they were playing as the main character or reading a book from a first person perspective. And so all these things that the villainess were doing, it's like when you look back at it, you're like, wow, those were really horrible, awful things to do to a human that normal people wouldn't do, even if they weren't the nicest or weren't on the best of terms with that person. Like throwing food all over someone or kicking people, pushing people downstairs, stuff like that. And so the new villainess, because they're reincarnated now, right, is so nice, but it's not like over the top nice. It's nice in a way that like, oh, I made some extra cookies here, do you want some, to the person that in their previous, not their previous life, but in the character's previous life had kicked down the stairs. Or and a lot of times they have already a reputation of being very mean. So when they come and they're just like normal, not even nice, just normal, everyone's like, oh, what happened? They're so different. It's crazy. And it's so funny to see that change of being, instead of incredibly mean, to just like averagely like considerate and kind, is so funny to watch and be like, oh, like that's crazy how like a tiny little thing can change things. Or it's like the girl, like one of the ones I watched, she gardened a lot, and because of that, like it changed this course of things, and then that affected this person, and then that affected this person, and it's really fun to see all of those things. I think also there's some fun in the fantasy of the idea of like, I think a lot of people, like, this is a question that I think people include on those like get to know people questionnaires, or like when you're doing like an icebreaker kind of thing. I think a question that a lot of people ask is like, if you could go back in the past, would you, and what would you try to change anything, or would you just, what would you do? And this is kind of a way to live out that fantasy through a different character, because you're not the one living it out, but through a different character, seeing them get to either go in the past. I've only seen that once though, or be reincarnated but have knowledge of like what would have happened, so it's as if they're going to a past self, and then seeing what they can do with that and changing things. I think there's a fantasy there that a lot of people would like to play into and like kind of explore, and so this kind of show kind of fulfills that. Obviously there's other, I think isekai is what it's called, There's other shows that kind of follow the same idea that aren't just the villainess stories, and so I'm sure that that can fulfill that as well, but I just personally prefer the villainess stuff. And I think like a lot of people have this idea that if they could go in the past and change something for the better for like majority of people, not even just like a personal thing, but if they could change something for the better that would help a lot of people, they would want to. And so it's kind of just cool to see someone go back in the past and do that. And of course, having the multiple love interests doesn't hurt. I love that. I love a reverse harem. Like, I just think it's so fun and so funny, and I like to pretend that it's me. So, you know, it is what it is. I enjoy that. I like watching those. And I also find that I think every single one that I've personally watched has been very comedy heavy. And personally, like, not anything against shows like Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm not the kind of person who seeks out anime because I want something really exciting and dramatic. I don't mind those. I like them, especially if they're really well done. But I find that I prefer my drama stuff to come from live action things versus animated things, typically. When I'm going into anime, usually I want something that's gonna make me laugh or like make me just feel good, or just like something slice of life that's kind of easy and gonna like help me just get away from any stressors that I might be dealing with in life. That's kind of my why I go to anime. And so because this genre is heavy on the romance and really heavy on the comedy, I think I prefer it over some of the other genres of anime that are out there, because I think there's a lot of like fighting demon anime, that kind of a thing. And it's not that I don't like them, it's just like I have to be like in the mood for it. It's the same way, I'm the same way with K-dramas, where with historical stuff I have to so be in the mood for it, or I have to, it either needs to be really funny and like a rom-com thing, and there could be some drama but it can't be drama heavy, or I need to be in the mood for it. And if I do watch a very heavy dramatic historical K-drama, I have to then palate cleanse and not watch a historical K-drama for a while because I get so stressed out by them. And so with anime, I tend to gravitate towards stuff that's just a little bit lighter than that. Even in the other stuff, like even though Spy Family has a lot of like heavy fighting scene, not even heavy, but it has a lot of fighting scenes in it, and there is like life or death situations in it, like almost every episode. Like it's about a spy, multiple, well, spy and an assassin, and then you know. Um, but there's still so much comedy in it that it makes it feel a little bit lighter. Whereas like something like Jujutsu Kaisen, like I'm gonna have to, I know like for me at least, it recently finished, the newest season recently finished, so I'm gonna go and like just once I'm in the mood for it, I'm gonna sit and just watch it. But typically I gravitate towards stuff that is more comedic heavy when it comes to anime, and so I think that's one of the reasons why I love the genre. I just think they're fun. So now I'm just going to talk about some of the ones I watched. My intro to Villainess anime was My Next Life as a Villainess. I don't know if that's the full title. That's just what I have written down. There's so many of them, and the titles are always so long for these. That was my introduction to this type of anime. It was in the middle of summer. I wasn't doing anything. My sister was home, but she was in the middle of like she was in the middle of doing something, and so we weren't hanging out that much, so I was just kind of bored. I was like, what can I do? So I just started like looking through anime, and I was like rewatching old stuff I watched, and I was kind of looking for something new, and then I came across this, and I was like, that's a neat idea, and so I watched it, and it was so good, so funny. The main character is so cute, and she like gathers her little harem of boys, and it was just like the most fun thing to watch. And it's like, it's funny when the main character who's supposed to be a villain is like incredibly like dumb. Not dumb, but like clueless. Clueless is a better word for it, because she's not dumb, but she's clueless. And it's cute to watch, and it's fun to watch, and so I really enjoyed it. And so then I started seeking out more. So another one I watched was I'm the Villainess, so I'm taming the final boss. That one was really good. My sister, I think, was that the one? She didn't know. My sister didn't mind that one. It's definitely not as plot heavy as the My Next Life as a Villainess one was. And then My Next Life as a Villainess one is about like, was initially just about the doom flag situation and avoiding doom flags, which is like the event flags that are leading to her doom, essentially. Whereas the Taming the Final Boss one was more about her, I don't even know, I don't think she was even was she the villainess in that? I mean, she kind of became the villainess, I don't think she was the main villainess, but she went after like the main big boss that you would have fought in the game. taming the final boss and like marrying him instead, and like how that played out, and then like uncovering new things. I just like really, I liked that one. That one was fun. And then one that I think the story was so good was why Ray Liotta ended up at the Duke's mansion. That one my sister didn't like. I think she said something about the voice acting, and then something about the writing just was like too cringy for her. But I really liked it, and I thought it was interesting. And without spoiling anything, I'm just going to say like there's a twist that happens with the heroine, right? Because you're playing as the villainess, with the heroine of that story. Because she's not really, that one I don't think was, or am I mixing it up with something else? No, I think that one was a based, like, instead of it being based off of a game that the person had played, it was based off of a book. And that one's not, I'm really hoping there's going to be a second season, because that one, the first season is the only thing that's out right now. And I think you can go read it. I'm pretty sure it's a manga. If you want to, and they don't make another season of it. But it's interesting because they show you that she's murdered. She's pushed off of a building. She doesn't like accidentally die. Well, I mean, I guess it could have been an accident, but it looked like she was pushed off a building, so I don't think it was an accident. And then there's a twist later on where she's not the villainess, but she's a side character that's supposed to die in the story, and instead she changes that by like going after who initially is the main love interest for the main character. And then the main character shows up, and there's a twist with the main character, so that was fun. I think there was a twist with the main character in the I'm the Villainess, so I'm taking the final boss. Or am I thinking of another one that I didn't list? There's a lot, and they kind of have like the same, they kind of follow the same formula with like just slight variations, but I like that. Like, it's the same reason I like Christmas Hallmark movies. It's the same reason I like all these rom-coms. It's the same reason I don't mind a love triangle, as long as it doesn't get too annoying for too long. I don't mind the predictability of it because, one, it's comforting. Like, there's a reason people like to go back and rewatch things. So when something has a formula and it sticks to that mostly, it's comforting, and you're not rewatching the same thing over and over, but you can still get that same kind of comfort. And two, when they do add a twist in it that I didn't see coming at all, or even when they add a twist in it that I kind of saw coming and had an idea of but wasn't fully sure, and then it plays out, you feel like you were rewarded with something because you figured it out, and you're like, they did it. And it's like, yeah, they did it right, because that's how I thought it was going to happen. They're leading you to that conclusion, and it's just that some people don't have as much knowledge of how film and TV and story works. They don't pick up on it like you do, and it's a surprise for them. But then for you, when it plays out the way that you're like, that's how it was supposed to play out, yeah, they did that on purpose, and it feels good for you. I don't care that they did it on purpose and it's a trick. It's not a trick, but I don't care that they led you to that conclusion. If it feels good, I like it. But the predictability when they do have a twist and you didn't see it coming at all, but it still makes sense, it just feels so satisfying, and it's so nice. So I don't care when things are predictable. Like, sorry, I'm sure that that's not a popular opinion, or you might be like, that's just like dumb. Like, you're just a dumb girl who likes rom-com. Okay, and I enjoy them, and so what? And they're done really well. What's the problem? There isn't one, okay? Anyway, not to rant about that for too long. But those are some of the ones I've watched. Was My Next Life as a Villainess, I'm the Villainess, so I'm taming the final boss, Why Ray Liotta ended up at the Duke's mansion. And then the most recent one I watched was Tear Moon Empire, which isn't necessarily a villainess reincarnation, but it's along the same vibe as a villainess reincarnation. But she's not reincarnated as a new person. She's reincarnated as her younger self. And this one I liked. Surprisingly, I didn't know if I would like it as much because of this, but I actually just really enjoyed it. This one was more focused on the story and righting wrongs than it was on the romance. I don't think this is a spoiler. She gets sent back, it's in the description. She gets sent back in time, and she lives as her younger self, and the younger self is like 12 or something. Like, she's like a kid. So the focus on the romance isn't really a thing because they're kids. Not to say that they don't do that in anime, they do. But this one, it was just less on the romance and more on her trying to right the previous wrongs that she had done in the past. But I also really like this one because, and a lot of people had the same thought, because while she had changed for the better, it was still the same person at her core. Like, when it's a villainess, like a true villainess one, where they're reincarnated as a completely different character, like someone that they like knew because they played the main character and this was the villain in the game, the personality change is completely different because it has to be. It's a different person. But this time, when she was just reincarnated as her younger self and given like sort of a second chance, it was still her, but you could see how the future things that happened affected her and changed her personality just slightly. But at her core, she was still the same. And that was a really fun and interesting thing to watch that I hadn't seen yet. And so that was just like fun. That was fun to watch. And then the one that I just started that's not finished. The reason I watched Two Moon Empire is because I started this one and there was only one episode of it, and I was like, I need more of this specific kind of genre. While they're not exactly the same, they're similar enough that I was like, I need this. So I watched Two Moon Empire and I was like, oh yeah, this fulfilled that. But now I'm just waiting for this one. I'm gonna have to wait each week for it to come out because it literally just started. Only the first episode is out, but it was so good. It's called Seventh Time. Like, it's called, I don't have the full title here. Seventh Time Loop. I think it's called, like, Seventh Time Loops. And now I'm dating my arch enemy nemesis or something like that. And I literally just started it. It's only the first episode, but it seems very promising. I'm not endorsing it just yet because, again, I have not finished it because it's not done. It's not all out. Well, I think it's done, but it's not all out. So I can't say whether the whole thing was really good or not. It's not really a villainess story. It's more of a reincarnation like Tear Moon Empire is. But I like that idea. I think yes, the villainess is those kinds of, that genre is definitely my favorite. I think I like the reincarnation stuff too. I just prefer it when it's a female main character than a male one. I feel like, not only because I'm a woman and that is how I identify, but so it's easier for me to connect to. But I also think that it's because sometimes the male main character ones feel like they're so heavy on the fighting aspect of things or the conquering aspect of things, or sometimes it's focused on the women in a way that's not super comfortable for women to watch. It's not the most fun for us to watch sometimes. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. And I feel like a lot of the female main character ones, while they can be focused on the romance, they're not just focused on bodies, they're focused on the romance. And are also, they tend to be more focused on intrapersonal. They're focused on personal relationships and relationship building versus just like fighting and conquering and winning, which aren't always my favorite things to watch. So I think that's probably why I prefer the female main character, woman main character over male main characters. But the villainess stuff is just like, it's just fun to like see someone completely reinvent someone and then like make all these little changes that then end up to this big change. I just think it's fun and interesting to watch, and that's probably why I like them so much. So if I really like some time loop and I think it's worth it, then maybe I'll do a podcast on it myself. I don't know. I mean, I've done the one film where it was the Hallmark Christmas movie, but normally I just do K-dramas. But I did the Korean reality one recently, and then now I'm talking about anime. So I mean, maybe I'll do an anime review too. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of everything. TLDR, if you like rom-coms or just the idea of getting to live as the villain in a story or a game you love and then changing that world through the small decisions that you make, you might like this genre. And if you go and look and read and watch these, then maybe I'll get more, because I'm not satisfied with what's out there right now. I just want more. I always want more. Like, I will watch all this stuff. Like, I'll binge watch it like crazy. So, the more the merrier, I think. But yeah, that's kind of it. Just wanted to talk about a genre that I really love in anime. I hope you had a lovely time with me, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, morning, evening, night, whatever, weekend, week, day. I think I already said that. Whatever it may be for you. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I will see you next time. Love, Mikaela. Bye.